Okay. So now we will turn to Daily Wisdom for Bhagavad Gita. Pallavi ji and Nitin Bhai, are you there? They're going to discuss the formula given by Lord Krishna to stamp out the formidable enemy known as lust. Go for it, guys. It's all yours. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay ji. Thank you, Sunil ji. Welcome, everyone, in Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji. Thank you, Ajay and Sunil Bhai, for a wonderful session. Coincidentally, we'll be talking about mind and intellect as well. However, no matter how much detail we go into and how many different lenses we employ, there's always a freshness about this topic and something new comes out invariably. So welcome everybody. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your weekend. We are having a good start here as well. It's Friday Eve, so it's usually relaxing. So let's get started. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Today we are going to do chapter 3, shloka 43. And believe it or not, this is the last shloka of chapter 3. It has taken us 1 year, 1 month to complete our 3 chapters. So if I were to extrapolate it, it will probably take us 6 years, 6 months. Hopefully we can do it sooner. But yeah, after this we will be starting off with chapter 4 some next week. It may require a couple of sessions. We'll see how it goes. So welcome again, everyone. I'm going to pull up my screen for our opening prayers, and then we will get started with our topic of our discussion today. So let me share my screen. Hope you're able to see my screen. Pallavi ji, is my audio all right?
Yes.
Okay.
So far it is good. Yeah, and we can see the screen. Thanks. Yeah.
Wonderful. If it throws any tantrums, do let me know.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. All right. Let's get started with the opening. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening again, everyone. So let's get started. We are on chapter 3, verse 43, like always. I will recite it, and then those of you who have practiced it and want to recite it, you're welcome to follow. We get started then. What happened? All right. Evam buddhe param buddhva sanstatabhyatmanatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. All right. Do we have any volunteers who wants to go for the shloka?
Yeah, please raise your hand. Who wants to go first today? Ramya ji. Okay. Ramya ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Ramya ji.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe Pallavi.
We can barely hear you, Ramya ji.
Am I audible now?
Yes, now. Better.
Okay. Evam buddhe param bhutva samstapyatman samstapyatmanan atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durashadam.
Wonderful, very nice. I know it was a bit of a tongue twister, but you did well. Okay. Do we have anybody else?
Yes, Ashutosh ji.
Radhe Radhe Ashutosh ji.
Please unmute yourself.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Ashutosh ji. Please go ahead.
Evam buddhe param buddhva संस्तभ्यात्मनाम् आत्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम्. राधे राधे.
It's Radhe Radhe. Very nice, Ashutoshi. All right, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we have two more hand raised.
Sure,
Lakshmi ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe Lakshmi.
Evam buddhe param buddhva samstapyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabhaho kamarupam durasadam.
Wonderful. Very nice, Lakshmi ji. Thank you very much.
Radhe Radhe.
Ramji,
Radhe.
yeah, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Ramji.
Evam buddhe param buddha samsthabhyatam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Radhe Radhe.
Ramji. Radhe Radhe. Sanstabhyatmanatmana. This is a bit of a tongue twister. Yes, let's take a few more hands and then we'll get started.
Arti ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Ji.
Radhe. Evam buddhati param buddha sanstabhyatmana matmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Very nice, Arti ji. All right, let's take maybe two more hands and then we'll get started.
Okay, Pragi ji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Pragi.
Radhe Radhe. Evam buddhai param buddhva sansthabhe atmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Wonderful. Very nice, Pragi ji. All right, we'll take one more.
Radhe.
Radhe
Yeah,
Radhe.
Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go
Sumesh
ahead.
not gotten a chance. Yes, Rupa ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
Evam buddhe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmanam jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam.
Very nice, Rupa ji. Wonderful. All right, last one and then we get started.
Yes. Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead. Please unmute yourself.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Sumesh ji.
Yeah. I think, yes. Now it is.
Radhe Radhe Pinji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Evam buddheha param buddhva samstabhyatmanamatmana jahi satrum mahabaho kamarupam durasadam. Radhe Radhe.
Sumesh ji. Radhe Radhe. Let's get started. Evam means thus, buddhe, then the intellect, param, superior, buddhva, knowing, sanstabhya, subdue, atmanam, the lower self, which includes senses, mind, and intellect, atmana, by higher self, which refers to soul, like we discussed yesterday, jahi, kill, shatrum, the enemy, mahabaho, mighty armed one, which is referring to Arjun, kamarupam, in the form of desire, durasadam, that means formidable. Short translation, thus knowing the soul to be superior to the material intellect, O mighty armed Arjun, subdue the self, which senses, mind and intellect, by the self, strength of the soul, and kill this formidable enemy called lust. So let's get started. Go deep, take a deep dive into the shloka. So as you can see on your screen, you see a chariot, right? Chariot with 5 horses. I'm sure a lot of you would have come across this analogy. It's a beautiful analogy from Kathopnishad. However, it refers to the topography of how we are structured, our body. In some translations of Bhagavad Gita, it is used metamorphically or in an allegorical reference. However, when we simply reduce it to an allegory and lose the actual context of it, it is like trivializing that knowledge, right? Swamiji always cautions against that, because a lot of translations simply say, hey, by the way, this refers to this, and that is where it ends. Nothing of that sort. We'll go into detail, and it's a beautiful quotation from Kathopnishad, which refers to our body, senses, mind complex that we are endowed with this example of a chariot, which is a very, very profound example that we will do a deep dive into today. So, like I said, in Kathopnishad, this is a verse from Kathopnishad, which talks about, I'm not going to attempt to read that. That will be just way too much. But the translation for that goes like that. This Upanishad says that there is a chariot, as you can see on your screen, which have 5 horses pulling it. And as you can see, the reins are in their mouths. That's how they are. I mean, maybe you can't see it here. Let's assume they are there. And then those reins are in the hands of the charioteer. And the passenger is sitting at the back of the chariot, which you can't see. Okay. The irony or the unfortunate part is that the passenger, the one who should be instructing the charioteer is actually, and then the charioteer should be, the natural order of this chariot should be like the passenger will tell, like we say, right, in India, a driver or auto, and then we say, where do you want to go? And we direct him, right? Now, what happens if the auto driver just makes you sit and starts driving wherever he wants to go? Won't work that way, right? So the passenger is usually directing the driver. The driver is, in this case, is charioteer. And then the charioteer, the instrument that is there in the hand of this charioteer is the reins. And through those reins, it is supposed to direct the horses. And then when the horses are properly directed, that's when the chariot will move in the right direction. That is how it's meant to work, as we have seen in this world as well, right? If you have sat on a rickshaw, or for that matter, anything that requires a pulling, right? There's a driver which directs those. And this is a very beautiful example of the charioteer. So that is how this chariot is supposed to go from point A to point B, right? Point A is where the person or the passenger is right now. Point B is where the goal is, right? There's always when we take up some ride, there's always some destination, some objective to be achieved. Now, in this particular example, it says, ironically, unfortunately, the passenger has gone to sleep. Okay, he's gone fast asleep. And the horses, they are just driving them wherever they want. Okay, that is how our journey is unfolding, journey of life. And that is what we will do a deep dive today. Okay, so going forward, so these are the horses, as you can see, 5 horses. They are referring to the 5 senses that we have. Indriyas, the Gyan Indriyas that we spoke about, right? The sense of touch, smell, hearing, taste, and feel. So these are the 5 horses corresponding to those. Mute myself. All right. Now, furthermore, these are the reins, which refers to the mind. The mind is used to control these senses, right? Yesterday we spoke about the concept that superior to senses is the mind. And why it is superior? Because it has an ability to control it. And that is the purpose of mind, why the mind, we are being endowed with the mind. The mind is a very important component in all this, right? Man and buddhi aspect we will touch upon. We will not go into more detail, but then let's talk about mind and intellect. In fact, if you go to, I think there is a shloka in chapter 6, verse 5, it says that Uddhare datmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmevhyatmano bandhu atmevripuratmanah, which basically says that this mind that is given to us, this instrument which is superior than our senses, is supposed to be reigning in those senses with the help of intellect, of course, that is included in our mind in this particular definition. So it says that elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself. That shloka says, for the mind can be a friend and also the enemy of the self. So presently it continues to be our enemy. How? We will see. So if we come back to the analogy of senses and mind, the mind is the one which is supposed to reign it. And furthermore, as you can see a chariot here, along with the charioteer, it basically refers to the intellect, and the chariot itself is our body. We're not talking about passenger in this one as yet. We'll come to that. So this is the analogy that is given in that Kathopnishad verse about our body. Now what it says is that the senses, they desire pleasurable things, right? We know it through our experience. We don't need to be told, we know it. Our senses, they desire pleasurable things, right? The other day we were having a discussion. Yes, there is a pleasure, although it is a fleeting one, but they are pleasurable, and that is what it desires. The mind reigns is not exercising restraint on the senses. Mind is saying, all right, let me accompany along. Let's just have fun together. Okay, indulge in this particular thing. And the intellect, which is the charioteer, which is supposed to be orchestrating these reins, is simply submitting to the pull of the reins. It said, all right, you're pushing me to this direction, so be it. Okay, I will join you along. So charioteer is actually not exercising the power that it has over the other two instruments, right? It can actually exercise its power over the horses through the medium of those reins. But in this case, charioteer is saying, oh, because I am hooked on to those horses through and yoked to those horses through these reins, I will simply follow along wherever the horses will take me. Okay, that is what is happening right now. So this is the analogy that is provided. Now, just imagine if these horses, they start running in all different directions, right? What will happen? One of the dominant horses would probably take you or tug the other horses in his direction. And then once that horse will get tired, the other horse will become dominant. And then the third one and the fourth one and the fifth one. And again, that cycle can repeat, right? Now, if the horses, if we leave it to horses' volition, you can only imagine, what would be the state of the passenger? Where will the passenger go? Right? And these horses are nothing but our senses. They are very, very strong, super strong. In 2.67, we will revise that again today. The senses have been called as impetuous, okay, which like to take a lot of risk. So it's like you have a friend who likes to do bungee jumping every day, okay, and wants to take you along with him. Would you accompany that friend every day, or scuba diving every day? Somebody who's not averse to risks and doing things which can take you down any day. So they are called reckless and impetuous. We will revisit that a little bit today. But just imagine now the whole command of this chariot is in the hands of the horses. And our mind is following along. It is finding pleasure just to follow the horses, because horses are saying, we know where we need to go. You don't tell us where you need to go. We will take you wherever we want to take you. That's essentially what is happening. And the passenger is just happily taking a sleep right now, because passenger is not even aware where he's supposed to go. So let's move on and look at it from another angle. Now, the gradation of superiority that we spoke about yesterday, if you remember, amongst the instruments that God has provided us, it all started with body, which is made up of gross matter, which is analogous to the chariot that we spoke about. The chariot itself is nothing but the body. Furthermore, the the senses, they are superior to the body, which refers to those 5 horses that we are talking about, right? Better than the insentient chariot are the sentient horses. At least they have sense. They are alive and they know, they can take some action, do something. So better than that is our senses task. Even better than that is the mind. We spoke about this hierarchy yesterday, because mind can dictate. Actually, the reins have the power to control the horses. That is where the mind comes in. And furthermore, the CEO, the actual, is the mind. Actual CEO is actually soul, but let's end this hierarchy here for simplification's sake for now. Superior to mind is the intellect with its ability to discriminate. The charioteer can tell if it can actually tighten a particular rein to give direction to the particular horse, right? So for example, if horses, they start taking their own course, charioteer knows exactly how much pull to apply to which rein to actually tame in and get it into the direction that it needs to go. So that is where the intellect comes into picture, where it can exercise the power it wields over the reins and the senses, because that discerning ability is only with the charioteer, right? Now just imagine like I said, those 5 horses, if they start running in their own thing, what would happen? Now, this mind and intellect concept, right? Again, we'll revisit it from a story that Swamiji, beautiful story they came across. I think that actually illustrates this example very nicely. So King Janak, somebody asked him that, how do you, King Janak, by the way, if you know that King Janak was a God-realized person, father-in-law of Lord Ram, father of Mother Sita, right? Mother Sita is also called Vaidehi. Other name for Mother Sita is Vaidehi. And that's because Janak was known as Videh. Videh means one who has transcended this body. He was Brahmaleel, always used to be situated in perfect knowledge. So that is why, yes, Pallavi, you had a question.
Yeah, sorry to bother you, Nitinji. There is some noise coming now suddenly. Last few minutes now, there's noise coming in the audio.
Thank you for letting me know. About time to become pilot. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
Is it clear now?
Yes, far better. Yes. Thank you.
Far better, or is it all right?
There was some noise coming before, and then the volume was also getting small. I don't know. Now this is far better, I feel.
How about now? I need to fix it. Sorry about that.
I think it is perfect. Yeah.
Is it perfect now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me know if there's any disturbance or anything of that sort. Okay. Now, this story of King Janak I was explaining. So he's also called Videh because he had transcended the body. He was situated in perfect knowledge. So even if his hand is on fire, he will not come to know the pain. Not because of some disease. It's because he's situated in his perfect knowledge. Basically, that means that he's a soul, and that is a very advanced stage for sadhaks. So that is where he was situated. And even somebody like Janak, he could not resist himself when Lord Ram came. That is the power of Sagun Sakar Swarup, right? He could not resist looking at him and getting attracted by him. Even, that when the aroma of Lord Ram fell in his nostril, he was like completely bewitched. Anyways, getting back to the story of mind and intellect, the beautiful story that I came across. So King Janak, somebody inquires him, how do you keep yourself detached, even though you are a king? And how are you able to keep yourself detached from all the luxuries around you? Because one of the concept of spirituality, people, misconception is that if you are spiritual, you give up everything and then you don't do anything. You just do Radhe Radhe, Bhajan, Kirtan and all. That's not how it is. You can be a perfect Karam Yogi. You could be a king. You could be an IT professional. You could be a doctor. You could be anybody doing your duty to perfection at the same time, doing the perfect Karam Yoga. So King Janak and King Prahlad, all of these were kings. And at the same time, they were situated in perfect knowledge. So even God-realized saints, they operate in this world like we do. And from the outside, we cannot make it out. They will look like normal people, but then they are situated in knowledge. So somebody asked him, how do you, have this kind of an immunity from all the Aishwarya luxuries around you? Don't you get impacted by it? That was the question this person asked. So King Janak said, okay, how can you ask this question? Okay, put him into jail, and tomorrow he'll be given a capital. It's kind of a transgression, the kind of question he has asked. So put him in the jail, and tomorrow will be your last day. You'll be subjected to a death sentence, capital punishment for him for the next day. So this guy was put in the gallows, jail, and the next day he was supposed to be executed because he asked this question to King Janak. And King Janak also further added that since it is going to be your last day, we are going to make a not so adventurous exit from this world tomorrow. We will give you all the luxuries that you need tonight. Okay, best possible luxuries. Give him all the luxuries tonight so that he can simply enjoy, because tomorrow is his last day. Anyways, he was given a royal treatment, and I don't know what kind of luxuries were provided to this guy. And tomorrow he was brought to the court, so that the punishment could be meted out to him. Now he comes to the court, and King Janak says, hey, by the way, I have changed my mind. I think we should give you one more chance. So take this pot of oil, obviously pot of oil which can spill over as well. Take this pot and go roam around the entire city, and not even a single drop should fall from it. And if you can do that, then we will spare your life. Okay, this is your golden shot at having your life back. This guy is think, okay, this is a wonderful opportunity now. So he takes this pot, goes around the entire town, and comes back. Okay, and not even a drop had fallen. Right, so his life was spared. Now King Janak asks him a question. He says, so last night you knew that it was your last night. Did you enjoy all the luxuries that were sent out your way? This guy said, of course not. I mean, my mind was always thinking about death, the impending death that is coming up. So I could not enjoy anything of it. Only thing I could think of is the impending harm that is going to happen the next day. So my mind was completely absorbed there. I just could not, despite all the good things and temptations around me, I just could not. And then he asked him, then, this oil could have dropped, even if this much of carelessness would have happened. How did you manage to pull it off? He said, I was intellectually convinced, if I do it, I have a shot at life again. My life is at stake. And the whole night he was contemplating, okay, this is my last night, this is my last night. Now he's getting a golden opportunity. He did not let it slip away. So King Janak actually told him, this is exactly how my mind works as well. Okay, in answer to the question that he had asked. So think about it now. If our mind, right, there are times when somebody is telling you some story, you are preoccupied. They say, did you understand? You say, no, I don't know. Why? Well, because our mind was somewhere else. That is the power of our mind. If our mind is absorbed in something, we can resist the biggest of temptations. Now here we are talking about what kind of temptation? The worldly temptation. I have to see movie, I have to listen to this music, I have to eat that. That becomes very trivial when your mind is absorbed in something bigger and better and higher thing, right? You see, these are called rasas, mellows of the world. And God is called Ras Sindhu. So if we can get attracted to these trivial things, mundane things, just imagine what ras you will get once you start attaching your mind to God, or God decides to take just a little portion of your mind. We can't even imagine how intoxicating it can be. Right, but we are not able to get to that stage because we said, okay, who knows how much to try, it has become boring. So we just need to persevere and go take that extra step, get to that stage. So that is the mind. And then think about the intellect. When you are intellectually convinced, this is the last shot at my life. Now you will, that attention, that carelessness, you will dispense with. All of a sudden, all the focus in your life will come to that activity. That is the power of intellect. Okay, so this is that story. I found it pretty interesting. You can understand that concept hopefully now. Now just think, if you do not have a CEO, that, for example, if you don't have a charioteer or let's say a CEO, and every employee is allowed to run the company on their own, what would be the state of that company? If you don't have a monitor in the class, right, what happens in the class? If you don't have a CEO and everybody is given a free hand, do whatever you want. Okay, so one can only imagine what will happen to the company. Everybody will behave like a CEO and they'll just pull everybody in different directions. They say, right, too many cooks spoil the broth. Sometimes you need a leader. You need somebody to look up to. You need somebody you can get united together for, or get polarized. Otherwise, it's a wild west, right? Different people, different opinions, and which may or may not be in accordance with any of the principles, and then it will not take us far. Similarly, if we let our senses go wild and not exercise a power where, those senses can unite under a common goal, and that goal can be defined by your intellect through inspiration from your soul. Hopefully, when we start peeling the layers over our soul and start getting situated in that perfect knowledge, but until then, intellect is our best friend. Buddhi, man is our best friend. That is a deeper realization when we start understanding our true identity, that we are not this body but soul. But until we reach that stage where we truly awaken our soul, our friend is our mind and intellect primarily. And if your senses are going to tell you what is good for you, where we want to take you. Those horses are going to decide the course of the trajectory of the chariot. Then good luck, right? And that is essentially what is happening to us lifetime after lifetime, and because of which, let's see what happens. We'll get into that. So materially bound state, if you look at it, the bewildered soul, the word uses bewildered, confused, because it's sleeping. It has no understanding of itself, its own power, right? I think in the previous session, I was looking at Matrix example. One of the dialogues I like most in that movie is, Neo is told, what his name, who tells him, is told that you are capable of much more than what you give yourself credit for. Okay, that is essentially how our intellect and soul is. However, it keeps on underselling or undercutting itself because of ignorance, and because it is bewildered, the intellect does not direct it in the proper direction, because it's not armed with proper knowledge. So this confusion leads to making compounding mistakes. The fundamental mistake is made that we are this body, we have no understanding whatsoever, we are truly soul, and then it leads to compounding mistakes. It's like a castle is start getting built, a big high-rise castle, but the foundation is strong. So intellect is not leading it in the proper direction. Now, this is an important concept. You see these people, it happens to us as well. When we are in a theater, we are watching a movie, and when we watch a movie, we get so engrossed that we start living it. It is called, in English, that word is used as vicariously. Vicariously means indirectly we start living the character, right? That's why you see people crying. They start shedding tears and they get excited, they get happy. In fact, one of the movies, Jeevan, actually, he was sitting in the premiere of his movie. And those of you who, maybe it's a very old Indian actor, used to play a role of a villain. He was beaten up by somebody after the movie. Okay, that's how bad he felt about his role, because he was playing a role of a villain. So he felt good. He said that was the best compliment I got in my life, because that means my acting did have the impact that he was hoping it would have. So anyways, point here being that the way these people are living vicariously, that is how our senses, once they decide the direction where the chariot will go, the soul starts experiencing those pleasures, right? We spoke about those fleeting pleasures vicariously, indirectly, right? But it doesn't satisfy them. So if when you come out of a movie, does it completely satisfy us what we were actually seeking? Did it make us truly happy? That feeling that we got when the hero was finally able to marry the heroine, or whatever we were hoping would happen in that movie, yeah, it'll happen, but we've just lived it indirectly. It will still not satiate what we are truly looking for. So similarly, it says when our senses lead us to those sense objects, it will just give you some kind of a vicarious pleasure to the soul, and it will not satiate it. So let's look at it through another analogy now. Now, because of which what happens is, because we are being led astray by all these senses or these wild horses, what happens is the price that we have to pay for continuing to do that is moving around in this material world since eternity. Okay, and which I call as 8.4 million tourism, where we go through 8.4 million species, and then when we get lucky, we get a human birth. And when we get a human birth, we again spend our life indulging in senses only. If you look at even the animals, one sense is good enough for them for their downfall. Honey, we have looked at the example of the moth, which actually gets attracted towards the light and gets killed in the process. The elephant, with the sense of touch, the hunter is able to trap it, right? So many examples we have seen. The deer, with the sense of smell, that is how he gets captured, or the sound, I believe. So one sense is good enough to actually cause our downfall. And here we have five senses. Just imagine our precarious situation. And catering to senses, purely senses, is another way of leading a deluxe animal life. That is what our scriptures say. Why? Because the activities when we indulge when we simply cater to our senses without doing anything different with our lives, it still centers around those 5 basic activities: eating, sleeping, mating, defending, right? These 4 activities, even animals do, right? So the quantum of happiness that we get sleeping on a Dunlop mattress, a dog gets the same kind of happiness sleeping on a bare floor. The amount of happiness we get eating a chocolate pastry or chole bhatura, a cow gets the same happiness having that grass, ordinary grass. There's no difference at all. So if we simply lead our life indulging in our senses and not going beyond that, it is called ahar, bhay, nidra, and defending also. These 4 primal activities animals also do. And then there's absolutely no reason why God will give us another human birth, not to freak us out. But if you look at it, I mean, it makes common sense, right? It's like somebody gave you, again, that's a freaky example I use. Somebody gave us engine of or a car, Mercedes or a BMW, and all we did with it was buying groceries from point A to point B, right? What a waste, basically. So as a human, we are supposed to go beyond. Like movie, right? Spider-Man, it says with greater power comes greater responsibility. We have a greater power because we have intellect and we are endowed with so many faculties to actually really fast track our growth. And if we waste this opportunity simply doing those mundane activities, going after fleeting pleasures, it is a wasted opportunity, and it does not make a good business case for us to get a back-to-back human life. That's what scriptures tell us. And if we say we don't have time, this is a very common excuse, right? Then think of it. Who has most amount of time? The trees, they don't have absolutely nothing to do. The animals, right? If you look at your pets, do they have any objective or agenda in life to do? They just have a lot of time. So we got to be careful about the choices we end up making in this life. It's a little scary, but the fact is, it is actually scary. I mean, if you go and start reading Garud Puran and things like that, I tried doing it once and I said, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. It's better to do bhakti. At least your mind will be, directed towards things that are beneficial for you rather than getting scared. Because in Raganuga Bhakti, everything should be directed towards as a love for God. That should be your primary impetus for devotion, not out of fear or anything else. But the point is, if you think really deeply about this concept, if you're simply catering to our senses, we are no different than animals, right? And you think there is a good reason for us to become human again? No. So it's important for us to invest our time wisely and make spirituality, because we need to have that spark and question. That's what our scriptures tell us. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the objective of our life? Who is the supreme entity? What is our relationship with that? What are some of the things it's imperative on us to be born as a human to do, so that we are actually meeting the objective set for us in this life, or at least getting closer to our goal. So these are really important questions to be mulled over. Okay, let's move on. So again, coming back to the chariot. So the real sequence, how it's supposed to work is, if you look at this chariot, the body is the chariot, the soul is the passenger, which is asleep, like I said. Now, if the soul wakes up to its higher nature, so we keep living in accordance to our lower nature, which is catering to our senses. However, our scriptures say if the soul wakes up to its higher nature and tries to take a proactive role, right? Like they say, take control in your hands, then it can actually exercise the intellect in the proper direction. And then your intellect will govern the lower self, the mind and the senses. Now we are correcting that hierarchy. This is how it's supposed to work. The superior entity should be, like we discussed yesterday, the superior entity should actually be controlling the inferior entity. When the inferior entity starts controlling the superior entity, then everything goes for a toss. And that is essentially what is happening in our life. Our senses is the most, our body and senses are lowest in that hierarchy, or of the instruments that God has given us. And those are the ones which are driving even the superior instruments that we are endowed with, our mind, intellect, and soul. Then the chariot will pick up the right direction when we activate the superior entities and start using them for the purpose for which they were endowed to us to begin with. And then the soul must be used to control the lower selves, the senses, mind, and the intellect. That is the ideal state. Until then, we have to keep operating at the level of mind and intellect to make those our friend and all that stuff, right? But actual aim is to actually get in touch with your higher self and not just keep on living life or idling away life, catering to our lower senses or the lower nature, which is dictated by our senses. Now let's look at it another. So in conclusion, for what we have been discussing, Lord Krishna is emphasizing that this enemy, lust, can be stamped out by knowledge of the self. When we are situated in that knowledge, you can actually stamp out that lust. Because lust is essentially what? End of the day, lust is what is driving those horses, those senses. Right? The object of senses is lust. I need this, I don't need this. I need more of it, and only if I have it, I'll be happy, right? All that can be stamped out when you activate your higher self, the soul. And until then, the companions of the soul, like Uddharet, like I tell you the shloka, or told you the shloka 6.5, right? Where intellect and mind can be harnessed so that they become our friends and not our enemies. And the other aspect here to understand it is we are divine. And we are, so this, if the object is divine and the subject is material, it will never be able to satiate it, right? So object-subject relationship has to be at par. Something which is divine needs divine. No matter how high of a material object you give it, it will never be able to satiate it, right? It's like in physics, they say you have to have a threshold, right? Until you reach that threshold or that intensity, the next phenomena will not unfold, right? Even in heat, they say until you reach the ignition temperature, things will not pick up fire. Same way, the threshold here for our soul is something divine. That is the bare minimum threshold for it. And the best we can give to it in this world is material. And how will it satiate it? So it's just like another example is you try to decorate and clean the cage, but the parrot is not being fed. So is it helping the parrot if you keep on polishing the cage and making it nice from the outside? No, because the food that the parrot need is still not provided to it. Or another example is you take a fish out of water and start giving it ornaments. Okay, take this gemstone, take this De Beers diamond, which is for life, right? Our advertisements say that. Or take this Louis Vuitton bag. Will it make fish happy? No, because all it needs is water. Same way, no matter what you give to your soul, it will never satiate it. We know it intuitively through our experience. Scriptures are confirming that for us. And furthermore, says that material objects can never satiate that innate longing that the soul has. And we need to exert and train our intellect to, this knowledge has to be solidified that what I'm seeking will not make me happy. So I just need to change the course of my direction around that. Otherwise, technically can continue. Another beautiful example, I like it. If you look at this we know, right? This is water, which looks like milk, lime milk. So if you churn it, can you get butter out of it or lime water? You cannot. Even though it looks white, so milk is also white. There's a process to churn butter out of milk. However, with this water, which looks deceptively white, like milk, no matter how hard you try, can you get milk out of it? Never. And that is essentially what we are doing in this material world. We think there is happiness. There will be happiness. We will get that happiness because we are letting those horses take control. We have not activated the reins and the charioteer and letting the horse take their own decision. They don't have sense. They will keep on going after those. So we are actually moving our chariot, our body, in directions which are like, if you ask, why are you running? Where are you running? What are you running after? Think about this question. We don't have a proper answer for that. It's like, okay, what are we supposed to do otherwise? Everybody's running after this, right? Everybody needs a house. Everybody goes after, take care of family, raise kids. That's what we're meant to be here for. And that's the only purpose, right? So we've not really deeply thought about this question because everybody's doing it. We're also doing it, right? What else we are supposed to do? And that's where the argument ends in our mind. But our scriptures say you are doing anything without prayojan or without objective, nobody does anything. If you think deep about it, actually we are doing it so that we become happy. We become satiated. We get that joy, perfect bliss, perfect peace that we are seeking. That is why we do all the activities. There is no other objective. But the direction that we have taken is unfortunately not right, because the knowledge that we have in our intellect is erroneous. And that erroneous knowledge is clouding our real identity from, even further. So if we have to get in touch with our soul, first we have to clear our mind, antakaran, with proper knowledge. And then we will start having a better realization of our real self. And then we will be able to manifest ourselves in our full glory. Right now, it's all latent, covered with so many layers. And spirituality, understanding the knowledge, contemplating upon it repeatedly, and picking up nuggets and starting implementing in our life is the way forward. Theory is very appealing. 50% of the battle is getting the theory right. Because if your knowledge is erroneous, you will not go too far. And remaining 50% of the battle is to apply that knowledge and then take yourself to the next level. And that 50% is even tougher. And there's a big divide between theory and practical anyways. But at least if we get our basics right, theory right, fundamentals right, that itself is a huge victory, because 50% of the battle is pakka. Now it's just a matter of implementing it. All right. So with that, so like I said, 2.67. So our senses are told to be impetuous. Maybe we'll have a little more detailed discussion on this concept later. I wanted to have a bit of a conversation because it requires a little more discussion. So let's have a little bit of a discussion on this, right? We spoke about this chariot example. Now, what happens if the horses take control of this chariot? We have spoken about this concept in great depth today. Maybe we can add something if we want to, but more importantly, wanted to have a bit of a discussion around this question that how do we wake up the soul or our real self, get in touch with our higher nature and be able to assume a proactive role? What are some of the practical tools that can help us wake up to our real identity? That is where I wanted to have a bit of a question, because right now, as you see on the bottom left corner, these horses are just taking us somewhere. Okay, and we have no clue where we are going. Okay, in this life at least. After this life, I've already shown you that slide, right? 8.4 million tourism. That is what we are doing. And that's because of this horse, as you can see, which is vigorously running without much of a motive in life. Okay, it has no clue which direction it needs to go, simply going after its objects and then continuing this journey forever and forever. All right, with that, I would like to call upon participants to share their views and get the discussion going. Please, I don't have that timer, so limit yourself to 2 minutes. That way everybody can participate. And Pallaviji, do we have any announcements you wanted to make before we get into that discussion, and share the attendance tracker? That way people can fill in their feedback as well.
Yes. Thank you, Nitinji, for such an awesome session. I mean, it is such enlightening session today. I can't tell you how attentive I have been in all the slides and everything, each and every word that you told today. And I'm sure everyone has been like that. It is like, got goosebumps today.
I'm glad it worked out that way. It's all God and Guru's grace. They have their own specific agenda for every session, and I'm happy that I become the instrument in that process. So thank you for that. So you can make the announcements and then we'll get the discussion going.
Definitely. Though I see Annapurnaji's hand raised.
Annapurnaji, while Pallaviji is making the announcements, I will go through the slides and you can take the screenshot. I'm sure that's what you wanted to say, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I can unmute her quickly to see.
Yes, Annapurnaji, real quick. Annapurnaji, are you there? You can make the announcements in the meantime.
Yes, I'll go ahead.
Yes,
so the featured announcements are that we have already shared about is about Sanskriti 2022, which is a cultural extravaganza by JK Yogs, Pal Mukund and Youth Club. So please do take advantage of it. Please register your children in all the competitions and encourage them to participate. The second featured announcements is about Saint Tyagaraja Aradhana, which is going to be on 19th February. And timing is 1 p.m. to 10:15 a.m. CST. We can share more details about it. And this event is also online and also in the temple as well. Today's featured event is about the yoga session, which is going to be free yoga session on Sundays, 9:15 a.m. CST after book club. So please take advantage of it and inculcate more yoga in your life. Take benefit of having yoga in your life. And these are the featured events for this week. And apart from that, there will be all regular classes. I have shared the link, which is, we have all the details of combined JK Yoga and CIC classes. You can get more information about it. And please fill in the attendance tracker. Please share your feedback, comments, and your interest in volunteer activities. That's it for regarding the announcements from my side. Nitinji.
Okay, all right. So let's get the discussion going then. So the real question that we want to tackle today is, I know we beat it to death. What happens if the horses take control of the chariot? But yes, you are welcome to add on to that. And then, as you can see, these horses have been leading us astray for a while. So the real question is, what are some of the practical tools that we can use to wake up our real identity and assume a more proactive role where we correct that hierarchy of how to direct that chariot? So let's open it up and get the discussion going.
Padmaji, I see your hand raised. Radhe Radhe, please go ahead,
Padmaji.
unmute yourself. Yeah.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Fundamentally, when we look at this question, right, we might not be too far from this question, maybe 5 years before or 10 years before, right? We are in that question, and then we are on this path, and somebody else that we know, they might not be on this path. So I think it's very relevant when we ask this question to look at one own self, right? Where was I 5 years ago? Where was I 10 years ago? What is that mindset that I had 5 years ago? What is that mindset that I had 10 years ago? What was that really blocking me from not thinking this way, right? That kind of contemplation will really give that individual prescription of what your symptoms are and what your problems are, and that you can cater what is those tools and techniques and prescriptions that you need to give to yourself. And I think second thing that I want to say is we like this, we say this and we realize this, we like this, we want to do this, we want to do that, but we never say that we want to love ourselves. Because I think especially in Indian culture, when we say that we love ourselves, it is projected as something being negative. But if you take it in a spiritual aspect and say that I love myself, I love myself enough that I'm not going to damage myself. I love enough myself that my soul, and I know that God is sitting in me, that you love yourself so much, which is loving God, which is in you, that you're not going to put yourself through these situations of pain and suffering and attachments and all the thing. So once you have the thing, then it becomes maybe a slow process to say, okay, what steps do I need to take? That is the number 2 thing. And then the open-mindedness to say, yes, I can be faulty. I will fail, right? But when you're accepting that you are faulty and you will be faulty, will give you that space and room to say, okay, what is that I need to do when those thoughts are coming? When the thoughts come, pay attention to those thoughts and see. You don't have acknowledge that you don't have to engage in every thought which comes to your mind, because it is not an overnight process, right? You will continue to get these thoughts, but once you say that I am faulty, but if you're asking God for strength, you're acknowledging those thoughts, but you're exercising a habit or a practice to say, I'm not going to engage every thought which is going to come into my mind. It's coming, but I will train my mind to let go of 95% and I will engage those 5%. And just as you used 2 days ago, which was, spoil the rod and spare the rod and spoil the kid. So what we are doing to ourselves is, we are sparing the rod of not going through the sadhana of practicing all the knowledge that we get, and we are actually spoiling the child within ourselves. There is a child within ourselves that we are spoiling. That is the last thing. And the very last thing that I want to say is, there is a strong connection between even if you're not putting something in action, whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, even if you're contemplating on it, even contemplating on something negative, or even at least contemplating on something positive is a good thing, right? If you're contemplating on a good thing, even if not able to put it in action, that is a good thing. Slowly it will get
Into
you
action.
where
Yep.
you need to get to.
Great points. Yes, eventually it will translate into action if you have contemplated deep enough and internalized it. Great point, Padmaji. Like always, beautiful points. I think I had lost my train of thought. There was something, I'll come back to that. I think there was a very important point you said. But let's pick up our the participant in the meantime. Thank you, Padmaji. Like always, profound thoughts.
Shikha ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Shikha ji.
Radhe Radhe ji, Radhe Radhe ji. So what happens if the horses take control of this chariot? So I think for me, it's like the person won't reach to their goal, to the ultimate goal. At the same time, we all have, goals, and we all have a purpose to live. But in between, we get distracted, and the distraction can come in any which ways, like, maybe, a relationship can be there. For example, illness can be there. Anything can come up in between. I'm not talking about the little, like, the small distractions. For example, if I wanted to attend a session today, just something which will upskill my knowledge or something like that. For example, if I'm into yoga and I want to attend a pranayama session, but I switch to Netflix instead of doing that. So that is also one of the distraction. But there sometimes it happens that bigger distractions comes in our life, and for 2-3 months we get swept away by all of it, and after some time we suddenly realize that, oh my god, I have missed so much, like in these months. So then the second question is, how do we wake up the soul to wake up to its higher nature and let it assume a proactive role? So, for me, what works is setting a morning routine and an evening routine. Like, for example, in the morning that I have to make sure that, I'm waking up at this time. For example, sometimes it happens if you're not able to wake up 4, 5, or, any desired time, but just waking up little bit early than your usual time, and just not being touching any Gmail or your WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram, but just doing sadhana. The moment you wake up in the morning and you connect with the God, whatever it is, the higher energy, just saying to the universe that please align me with the purpose
Beautiful
of my
point.
life.
Very true.
Align me with whatever I am here on this earth to do. And then take that one step at a time, and then basically just asking the God to intervene in your life. And
Beautiful
that's how
point.
you start your day. So for
Wonderful.
me, that is something really works. And then the setting up the evening routine, it's not like going to the bed and watching some news and talking to somebody over the phone call or anything like that. But my evening ritual is just involves me and God.
Wonderful.
Maybe just doing some job, maybe doing some 101, 108, any number of job, and just reading a book maybe, or listening to something like something spiritual, or listening to a mantra or some binaural beats or anything like that.
Wonderful.
And again, connecting with the God and saying just being thankful to the God for the entire day, whatever you have done, whatever you have achieved, whatever you have not achieved, just having that will to achieve it on the next day. So I think that is something which works for me. And one more thing, if the people are not able to get up in the morning, just doing everything the day before at night. Like, for example, like keeping your clothes ready, what you're gonna wear the next day, what you're gonna do the next day. So the moment it's all things are ready and it's there near your bed, so the moment you wake up next morning, you put the alarm, you wake up, you see all those things. Or also, if it's really dark, if you're not able to see the things, it's there in your subconscious mind. Okay, everything is ready, you just have to wake up from the bed. That's the only challenge you have to take. After that, everything is all set. So
Great
I
point.
think these are the things which really works for me.
So thank you for sharing that practical tips. Very nice, very practical way of approaching these things. And the best part is that you take out time, to connect with divine, with God. It is like sharpening the axe. That beautiful story that Swamiji talks about, right? There are two woodcutters, and one would, simply go and start slam bang, trying to cut the trees, and other one just takes a break in between, sharpens the axe and then cuts it. So the one who's taking out time to sharpen the axe, as opposed to the one who's just going slam bang, without sharpening it, this one is able to outperform just because that sharpening of axe that we do, getting up in the morning, connecting with the divine, and before going to sleep, that will set the tone for your entire day. That immense reserves that you can draw upon once you do that is something to be experienced for sure. And we are talking about getting in touch with our true self. The fastest, surest, smartest way is to attach with God. If you start meditating on God, bring his form, pastimes, all that stuff, it's like a silver bullet. It's like watering the root. You can pick up one thing in life, but if you just do this one thing, rest have to follow. That is how powerful it is. That is how it's like a silver bullet or a Swiss army knife, so to say, employ in your life. One thing, if you can start practicing and deepening that practice, rest, you will be surprised to see, have to follow. You will get into discipline, your diet will get into control, your sleep will get moderated, your thoughts will get uplifting, lot of things will start happening all by itself. But great practical tips you shared, Chikaji. One more thing I wanted to add, we are swarthi, we are selfish, Maharaji says, but if we truly understand where our self-interest will get served, then also it is okay. The problem is they say that we are swarthi, but sahi hum ye bhi nahi jante hamara swarth kahan hal hoga. So we are in ignorance, we don't even know where our self-interest will get served. And we are seeking things in all the directions in the material world and keep repeating in this world, and that is what the big problem is. All right, let's hear. I can see a couple of other hands. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shikhaji.
Thank you, Shikhaji.
Anshumanji.
Yeah, Radhe, yeah. Actually, a very nice point shared by Shikhaji with a lot of practical inputs. I just want to say that our unconquerable lust of material desires is a powerful enemy of the self-realization, and we have to discipline the sense desires by our spiritual practices. In fact, soul is immutable, and we have to actually have that intuitive soul perception. So actually what is happening is our senses are controlling our mind. Yeah. Our mind is controlling our intellect, and there's a disconnect with the soul. So through intuitive soul perception, the soul should control the intellect, and then the intellect controls the mind, and then mind controls the senses. Yes. So it should be the other way around. Yeah. Now it's very, very important. I think some practices which can help us. One is fasting. So inspired by Seema ji, I also started a fasting practice, and definitely it will help us to grow spiritually. Apart from that, we need to practice minimalism. God has given us the senses for a purpose, and if we can use these senses to have connect with the divine. For example, our ears can be used to listen to the kirtans or the glorification of God. Similarly, we can use our eyes for reading, I think, scriptures or the song of God and so on. So I think all these senses can be purified by deliberate practice of our spiritual practices. So that is what is, I think, required. So intuitive soul perception, connecting to your soul within, and then through intuitive wisdom, because wisdom never lies, and that wisdom lies in the soul. So that is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Beautiful points, Anshumanji. Very true. I think you touched upon a lot of good points, the practical ones, and also how can we dovetail our senses towards something that becomes beneficial for us, right? Our eyes see, but you can choose to see whether you're going to see a Netflix series or you're going to see a video that is uplifting, right? Your ears also, you can actually, are you going to hear something that will help you meditate upon something which is uplifting for our soul, or are you going to hear something which is going to agitate our mind? So those choices are there, and we can dovetail our senses. We can actually create an ecosystem of everything around us that actually helps us, and set triggers for ourselves as well. Great point, Anshumanji, like always. Yes, Sarthiji, real quick. I know we are over time, but it's a very interesting, good conversation that we are having, and today we are completing chapter 3. Okay, maybe it might spill over a little bit on Monday as well. We'll see. Yes, Artiji.
Yes, Artiji. Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe. Ma'am, sir, it is, we have listened from so many times, like Kaljug keval naam adhara, sumir nar utarahi para. Every moment of our life, although so many times in this life also till now is has been, I mean, I feel it is wasted if it was not, our action was not with the knowledge that God has given us. still like we should have a slogan there's athletes and sports person, they are so much into it, the winning spirit, that I will do it now, it will be never done, now or never. In the same way, we can pick a slogan of always being with the God and asking God to be with us. God is always with us, but for in order to we have to call him, like, God, always keep me on the right path, as it is said in the Gayatri mantra, हे ईश्वर मेरी बुद्धि को श्रेष्ठ मार्ग पर चलाइए. So it is not that for once or twice we can say and then we get swayed instantly to whatever spontaneously is happening, getting involved to it. It is that in every hour, like Sister Shivani says, in every hour we should pause and we should go, ask God, please be with me and please guide me. Please, it is only that through His grace and His strength, in His companionship only, we can come out with success.
Very true. Your voice is breaking, Aarti, but very good, very great thoughts. In fact, you brought in a very interesting tool. Okay, this is a tool you all can try to employ it, and it's a practice we have to deepen over time. Okay, that tool is every hour, maybe start with every hour, pick up any cue or any trigger for yourself. You can take help from technology also. Maybe set up a reminder for yourself, but there's an app called Blip where it will give you a reminder every hour. Just remind yourself, just for a second or a few seconds, that God is with me, He's watching me. Bring that consciousness into your mind. Then gradually start, taking it every 45 minutes and 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and then see you start getting better at that practice. Just bring that, maybe 1 second, 2 seconds. That's about it. Nothing big you have to do. One practice that you can experiment around with is also to start filling the voids or the spaces in your day with the chanting and remembrance of God. That is very powerful. If you do it for 2 weeks, you will see a difference. Okay, you will realize certain kind of experience from within that would tell you that some strength you are gaining. And the second is, God is with me and God is watching me. If you can do it every hour and then 45-30 minutes, like I said, it's a great capability to start building it, increasing that frequency, because sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmar, that is what God says in Bhagavad Gita at every moment. But that can only happen when we start building that practice gradually. So we have to start taking some baby steps towards it, and you will find it gives you a lot of inner strength, a lot of spiritual strength, a lot of inner strength, and you can face the problems of the world with much more confidence. It will not happen overnight, but you will start realizing there is some power you are getting, right, which is equipping you to face the otherwise tricky situations in life much more confidently and with much more assurance. That will start happening. Okay, wonderful discussion. I will do the closing prayers now. I look forward to seeing you. Yes, Sunit ji, real quick, you had any last minute comments or questions?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I just, yes, I heard, actually today I wake up late and I didn't attend your session. And, I started feeling guilty. So I heard the Swati and other lady, and she said, just tell God, align myself with the day. It's a really beautiful line, because I was feeling guilty, Nitinji, today.
Okay, no
so
worries.
This is really beautiful. And, I got a tears in my eyes after hearing this line. So I am it's really blessed to always listen to your lessons. So can we get recording of today's lesson, sir? Today's session?
Sure, I will do that for today's session.
Yes.
I think we had a lot of content to cover, so I'll get the recording and post it on our portal. That way you can take benefit from it, and maybe a couple of other sessions as well. So thank you, Sunit ji. Radhe Radhe. So
Nitinji, there are quick questions in the chat if you have a couple of
sure,
minutes.
yeah, we can spend a little bit of time.
So one question is about, where does willpower and conviction stand in the chariot hierarchy?
Willpower and conviction. So willpower is something, it's like a muscle which is there in our prefrontal lobe of our mind, which is a limited commodity. Like muscle, it gets tired out. Willpower is something which is strongest when you begin your day, when you wake up at 4 a.m. or 8 a.m., whatever time, but it is strongest. And by the end of the day, because you exerted so much in your job and compromising on things and then dealing with people, by the end of the day, you are tired. You have exhausted your willpower. And that is why most of the fights happen at home in the night, evening, right? You come back home tired and then you start fighting with your wife and kids and who not. So willpower is a limited commodity. What was the second question? The willpower is, yes, it resides in mind.
Willpower and conviction stand in the chariot hierarchy.
Conviction sits in our intellect. Conviction is like a belief. Yes, I believe in it and I'm sure about it. That is a symptom of our intellect. Willpower is in mind. Right? Our mind uses the willpower. Say, oh, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Conviction comes from why power, which is even higher than willpower. Right? Willpower is a limited commodity that you can expend. Right? Like Seemaji was talking about, it's like a cow tied to a 10 feet rope. After 10 feet rope, you cannot go any further. Willpower is like that. But when you have why power, you can actually even go beyond your willpower because now you're intellectually convinced. Intellectually convinced means it resides in your intellect. That conviction that, yes, this is pakka. That is a symptom of our intellect. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, beautifully explained, Nitinji. Another question is about, sir, how to practice to develop intellect?
We already have an intellect, but yes, how to develop it is to arm it with proper knowledge, not erroneous knowledge. And that proper knowledge, we said, it should have three symptoms. It should come from scriptures. It should be told, reiterated by the saints. And then it should be something that if you implement, it's coming from your guru as well. And if you implement, it makes a difference. If it passes all the three tests, then it is perfect knowledge. If it fails even one of that test, it's not perfect knowledge. It's somebody's opinion or it's somebody's interpretation. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Nitinji. Another question is about, what is the name of the app you mentioned?
Blip, BLIP. Check it out. Blip.
Okay, I can.
You can set a reminder for yourself.
Everyone.
And JK Yog Radio, by the way, I think there also you get an to do reminder to set up Radhe Radhe or something like that. It's a beautiful app to have at your disposal. You get inspirations and you can listen to so many wonderful bhajans and discourses. So JK Yog Radio could be another asset that you can have.
Yes. I have shared that in the chat. I see one hand raised. Parthaji's hand raised.
Yes, Parthaji. Radhe Radhe.
Parthaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe. Parthaji?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji, excellent session.
Radhe Radhe, Parthaji.
About the mind, I know it's very difficult to control. You are able to control for a week, then it runs away. And of course, the intellect is the one which is going to control. I can feel that I can control the mind. I know it's going to take quite a bit of time controlling the mind. It's not instantly, we cannot do it.
Yes, that's true.
And of course, with the knowledge and learning more and experience, I think it has to be done step-by-step process.
Yes.
And the second thing is about the soul. I can feel the senses, I can feel the mind, and I can, imagine what the intellect is. Now I'm trying to see where the soul is. I know Swamiji says it's in the region of the heart. And it's
region of the heart.
So I'm trying to see for myself where the soul is. I'm not able to imagine where it is. Or is it just a feel is the soul?
You will, as we deepen our practice, we will start getting better realization of it. But intuitively, we can understand. See, when you have a lot of excitement or a lot of pain, something here happens, right? We feel it from heart. It comes from there. But yeah, I think that realization would come as we deepen our practice. It's not so easy to realize
sometimes
that.
we feel when we go to the temple, we pray, we can see that. I believe that's the soul.
You can feel that, our true identity, when it manifests, it will tell you in some form or manner. But yeah, that experience is not something that persists. And when you talk about mind, even that, if you look at the shloka, Krishna, Arjun says, right, the person who had absolute control over sleep and who could have such a mastery in his skills that, he could shoot an arrow just looking at a bird's eye. He's saying Chanchalam hi manah Krishna manah durnigraham chalam, that it's so turbulent, it's so naughty, Krishna, that it's easy to control wind than mind. That is what Arjun is saying. Mighty Arjun is saying. See, we are normal people. We don't have control over our senses. Arjun had conquered sleep. He did not even look at Urvashi, who was the most beautiful, queen of Lord Indra. That much power or restraint he had over his senses. He's saying that. And Krishna, he's not saying, Arjun, what are you saying? Are you kidding me? Arjun, Krishna says, Asanshyam hi mahabaho mana durnigraham pramati. He says, yeah, mana durnigraham chalam. Abhyasena tu kante vairagyena chagriyate. He said, yes, what you are saying is very right, very true. However, with practice and detachment, you can conquer it. So Krishna is acknowledging what Arjuna is saying. That means what you are saying, obviously it's a common problem. But then Krishna is also giving a remedy. He's saying through practice and detachment, you can conquer it. So that means it is difficult, but not impossible. And we have to get better at it, obviously, with practice. All right. Yeah. Anything else? I know we are way over time. I'd really like to wrap it up now. For Pallaviji, it's really late. Anything real quick, Padmaji? 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Yes. 60 seconds. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, I will try to attempt this, right? I mean, how I feel. So I'm pretty sure in our life, we will go through some experiences, some situations where either the external situations are forcing you to do something, and we feel that pressure, we feel that force that, you know what, I really don't want to do this. So that inner voice, that urge of what it's saying that I don't want to do this, that is your soul saying, you know what, externally, this is what I'm expected to do, but I don't want to do this. And you know that this is what is speaking. That I think you can somehow say that is my soul speaking, that I don't want to do this. When your true sense and your true voice coming and saying, I just can't do this, I don't want to do this, that I'm pretty sure everybody will experience in a small or a bigger scale, that your soul is saying, I don't want this.
Yes, intuitively sometimes we get to know, and soul makes it very evident for us. And in fact, inspiration is also something like that, right? Sometimes we just get that feeling that yes, we have to do it, or yes, no, we shouldn't do it, right? So that's beautiful quotation, right? In English they say that inspiration is when coincidence is when God chooses to remain anonymous, and inspiration is when God chooses to reveal himself. So that's when our souls manifest because of the power of God at times. Wonderful. Let's do our closing prayers for the day. I know we need to wrap it up, and we'll continue this conversation on Monday, because I think few aspects we'll touch again on Monday. Thank you again for the beautiful participation. Let's do our closing prayers, and then we'll call it for the day. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your evening, and look forward to seeing you next week. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Nitinji, for an awesome session. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.